Yeah. Welcome and thanks for joining the Family and Community Engagement Division for our Lunch and Learn series. Today, we will feature the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. We have Jessica Miller, who's joined us today. It's our mission of the Family and Community Engagement Mission Department to partner with students, families, and staff to support students' specialized academic, social, and emotional needs to promote self-determination, equitable opportunities, and authentic inclusion. Some tips while we're live streaming: the presentation is being recorded. The session is also being monitored live through YouTube. Use the comment section on YouTube to ask any questions, and our monitor will share with the presenter. Virtual learning opportunities cannot guarantee a confidential environment. Please do not share identifiable or specific information about your family and/or student. If you require additional assistance, please chat with the moderator on YouTube. Closed captioning is activated. A recording of this learning will be available immediately after the presentation. Some featured opportunities: on January 24th, we have the Hub Huddles, and that is from 10 to 2 p.m. at North Tech High School at 1700 Durhake Road. This is where Castle will come and provide additional support and access to families around utility assistance, rental assistance, and financial education. On February 5th, we'll have a family cafe at South Tech. All our families are welcome. This is a supported space of families where they come and share and connect and learn from each other. Jessica?
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Miller, and I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and I work specifically with transition. And I'm here to talk to you about transition services in regards to vocational rehabilitation, or VR services. Next slide. Okay, so the mission with vocational rehabilitation is to support individuals with disabilities in achieving successful employment outcomes. Next slide. Okay, so who does VR serve? So we serve any student with a disability. So students on a 504 plan, students with a physical or mental impairment, and any students receiving services through an IEP. Who does VR contact in regards to referrals? That could be the director of special education, classroom teachers, school nurses, high school counselors, or work experience coordinators. Next slide. Okay, so some of you family members may have students that are already receiving these services, because a student can start receiving these services actually at the start of 14, as long as the language is written in the IEP. These are services to students with youth with disabilities to ensure that they have opportunities to receive the training and any other services necessary to achieve competitive integrated employment. It expands the population of students with disabilities who may receive services and the kinds of services that VR agencies may provide to youth and students with disabilities who are transitioning from high school to post-secondary education and employment. We are trying to increase opportunities to practice and improve workplace skills, such as through internships and work-based learning opportunities. Next slide. Okay. So basically how this all started was VR partnered with University of Missouri, or Mizzou, to provide pre-ED services to students. Services are offered to students who are potentially eligible for VR services. So they do not have to have a case open or be eligible for VR services to receive the pre-employment transition services. Services can be provided in groups or on an individual basis. And again, we are now able to provide services starting at age 14, as long as the language is written in the IEP. Okay, so some of the categories that we cover: workplace readiness training, work-based learning experiences, job exploration counseling, instruction and self-advocacy, and counseling on enrollment opportunities. Next slide. Okay, so these are the areas. We basically cover our whole state. There is a pre-ed specialist and a VR counselor assigned to every high school in the state of Missouri. Next slide. Okay, so see, these are some of the programs. We offer a summer work program. There's a Dream Big program, peer mentoring, CIL summer work program, Explore Your Future, and MOYLF. There's additional information and resources and flyers that we send out to the faculty and staff at every high school. Next slide. Okay, so summer work experiences are one of our most common and popular programs, and that is basically a summer job for 6 weeks. So any student can participate as long as they have no work experience or maybe limited work experience where they haven't been successful, meaning that they've either gotten fired, terminated, lost their job for some reason. So we can work with that student for the final 2 summers prior to graduation. So sophomores entering their junior year and then juniors also entering their senior year. They must be at least 16 years of age by the start of the program. The program they work for 6 weeks for a total of 20 hours per week. They get paid minimum wage, which I believe is $13.70 an hour. And they get the supports of a job coach, but they must be able to work typically in a 1-to-5, 1-to-6 ratio. The employment setting is arranged by a partnering agency. And so we basically seek out entry-level jobs at different employers. It could be in a grocery store, retail, cleaning, YMCA, landscaping, hospitals, etc. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is just kind of a visual for the summer work program and all the WIOA funding. Those are potentially eligible for VR services. I'm going to start talking about the eligibility for VR services and then post-secondary services. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is just another visual of the kind of the process, the referral source, the point of entry, intake, eligibility, VR counselor, kind of the individual plan, service options, and employment. Next slide, please. Okay, so in order to make a student eligible for services, again, they must have a physical or mental impairment as determined by a qualified personnel licensed, basically by a doctor, by a psychiatrist. And it has to constitute or result in a substantial impediment to employment. So again, their disability, they must have some type of impediment to getting and maintaining employment. This requires vocational rehabilitation services to obtain, maintain, or advance in employment consistent with the applicant's unique strengths, resources, priority, concerns, abilities, capabilities, interests, and informed choice. Next slide. Okay, so how do we get documentation? So we can get copies of the school records, such as an IEP or a 504, high school transcripts, diagnostic summary or evaluation, an IQ, achievement test scores, anything like that are necessary to establish eligibility for VR services. We also may request additional school medical records and or proof of SSI benefits to help improve documentation of their disability and vocational employment related limitations. Next slide. Once a student is determined eligible for VR services, an individualized plan for employment will be developed to determine which services are most appropriate. Next slide, please. So some of the services that we offer for transition are vocational guidance and counseling. We can do consultation or participation in IEP meetings, supported employment, employment services, training or college, rehab technology, and co-op. Next slide. Okay, so supported employment. This service is funded by VR and provided by a community rehabilitation provider or CRP. So those are places like MERS Goodwill, UCP, Easter Seals, St. Louis ARC. And this is a program that is for those students needing coaching and long-term supports on the job. So they must be qualified as most significantly disabled. Some of the services include discovery and exploration, which are basically community-based assessments, informational interviews, job shadowing, interest assessments to help them determine appropriate job. We also provide job development services, which is helping them create a resume, cover letter, preparing for interviews, completing job applications, figuring out transportation, getting connected to different employers that they have an interest in working at. We also offer a job coaching, which is that on-site job coaching supports to help them learn their job and acclimate to the new work environment and interact appropriately with their coworkers and management. We also offer those long-term follow-along services that basically provides monthly check-ins for the life of the job. Next slide. So employment services, this service again is funded by VR and also a CRP. And this is designed for students that need some support, but they don't need as long support. So they don't get that long-term coaching or long-term follow-along services. They do get some limited coaching in the beginning for about 20 hours. And then they also require they also get that retention services to help them maintain their job for 90 days. They also get the service of job development, which is helping with that resume, cover letter, preparing for interviews, and then assistance with applications. Next slide. Okay, co-op. So this is for students who are receiving services through an IEP and are currently enrolled in high school. They must be at least 16 years of age. And they must have a job and they must have obtained that job on their own. And they also need to be determined eligible for VR services. So students can receive high school credit in accordance with DESE high school graduation requirements based upon the number of hours they work. Students must be released from school at least 1 hour per day during summer months in accordance with their IEP. Students participating must be earning at least minimum wage. Next slide. Okay, so we also offer some college and training assistance. Again, these services are based on financial need, and that's based on the family. So we also can I apologize, financial assistance based on a financial need of the family. So this is not based on the student's financial, it's based on this family because students are financially eligible under their family at least until the age of 23. This is also a service that has to be an agreement between the VR counselor as well as the student. But we can provide assistance connecting with disability support services through the access office of a university or a 2-year college. We provide vocational guidance and counseling throughout training or college and onto employment assistance with resume building and preparing for interviews. And we also provide follow-along assistance after graduation until the student is employed. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So clients are successfully closed when they have completed a minimum of 90 days of competitive integrated employment and are not in need of any further VR services. In some programs, the client will remain in services with the CRP for long-term follow-along services. So once a person is placed and they no longer need those job coaching supports, or maybe they just, never needed a job coach, vocational rehabilitation, again, will follow that student along for 90 days. And then we will have a conversation with them. And if things are going well, then VR will close their case. However, that is just for the duration of this job. VR is an adult agency and clients can reapply for services at any time in the future. So again, this is an ongoing service. It does not go away. We can help people all the way through working age 16, all the way to the age of retirement. Next slide. Okay, this is my contact information. This is just our website. Again, it's a state agency, but if you click the vocational rehabilitation, it'll take you to specifically services for VR. A good phone number is 573-751-3251, or you can toll free at 1-877-222-8963. And then for TDD, we also offer that service 573-751-0881 or info@vr.desi.mo.gov. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica, and sharing all that information. It was a lot, but it was like very much needed for families who are looking for transition services for their student. A few of the upcoming opportunities, we have American Sign Language that starts February 4th. It is from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Please use the QR code to register. We also have our next Lunch and Learn, which is February 19th. We'll have a conversation on state and federal eligibility with the Department of Mental Health. And then our Family Academy, that's Saturday, March 8th, 9 a.m. to noon. We'll have interactive classes, community vendors, summer program opportunities, fun learning. Special guests will be St. Louis County Library Suite Reads, where you'll get some free books. We'll also raffle off prizes. And don't forget to scan the QR code to give us your feedback on this event today. Here's how you can reach us. Here's the feedback code here, and thank you for joining. Here's how you